Welcome to the Pragati Vichar Literature Festival 2023, organized by Frontlist Media. This year's theme is Taking Humanity Forward. Today, we all are present here to celebrate the affection for literature and discuss the pivotal subject matters prevailing in the society and establish engaging conversations with the audience. So, today's theme is mental health and awareness and wellness. And the session's topic is finding hidden answers. And we will be talking to two panelists. One is Sharbani Banerjee, ma'am, and the second one is Siddharth Tripathi, sir. Hello, sir. Hello, ma'am.
Hi.
Hi, Nancy.
Okay. So I'm going to introduce Sharbani ma'am first. So, Sharbani Banerjee is a journalist and working as a digital news writer with the Statesman. She has been associated with the profession from around 15 years and she has worked as a chief reporter with the Statesman. Besides, she is an occasional poet and she likes to write about poetry based on humanity, animals, life, and more. Also, she is a visiting faculty at some of the colleges where she likes to share all her professional experiences with the students who are new to the industry. She has recently published her book From the Eternal to. And the second panelist will be Siddharth Tripathi, sir. He is an author of Unmind, a graphic guide to self realization. He was born in Allahabad and schooled in Banaras. He is a BE from NIT Trichy and an MBA from MDI Gurgaon. The Virgins, published in 2013, is his first novel. Blowfish, his second novel. His first two books are now being adapted for a serialized OTT release. He has penned down his new book, Unmind, a graphic guide to self realization. It was published by Fingerprint Publishing. From the last 5 years, Siddharth has been a practitioner of a non dual path to freedom and has extensively researched the Advaita teachings. I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly.
That's
Of
fine. Yeah.
Sri Ramana Maharishi and Shri Ramesh Balasekar. This book is a culmination of that journey. So, we will be starting with the questionnaire round now.
Right.
My question to you, my question is to Sharbani ma'am. What inspired you to address the world's anomalies through your book From the Eternal?
For that. So actually, nothing inspired as such. It just happened. But yes, while writing poetry, I started getting inspired to write more, and that actually kicked. That actually inspired me to write more about humanity, animals, and the love towards the love and especially the attention towards the people, the society, which the home means whom are mostly unattended. For example, we just walk around and we hardly pay any attention towards the birds, towards insects, towards animals. Like we are dependent on God and they are dependent. I'm not saying they're dependent on us, but then it's our responsibility to take care of those living beings. We share planet Earth with them. We are not the owners of planet Earth. So that
Mhm.
actually inspired me and that actually drove me to write more on them and to think upon them and basically to pay attention towards them. So that actually came out as an inspiration because that was a COVID time and almost everyone was inside home and we had hardly things to do apart from watching OTT and this news and all. But then I realized there was a time we all, since I belong to the industry, I myself was writing news that shutters were down and the stray animals, they had nothing to eat and nobody was there to feed and a lot much was happening. And then I realized that like we pray to God and they have nobody to whom they can pray, they can talk, they can, I mean they cannot express their views, but then we claim ourselves as the most intelligent beings on this earth, and then our intelligence just falls flat if we are not prepared and ready to listen to those who are unable to express themselves. So that actually inspired me to write on them about their children, their kids, their environment. Like we saw in Noida, how nilgais, deer, so many animals were coming out, and how we people have encroached their areas, their lives. We what all we do on them, how we torture them. So I'm not saying that I'm a vegetarian or something like that, but then that actually inspired me that let us listen to them also, because we can speak, we can share, we can express, but they cannot. So that actually inspired me. Basically, it's all about animals, animal love, and their feelings, their wishes, their dreams too. So that actually inspired me, drove me to write on them.
That is such a good initiative, ma'am. So I would like to ask if you have experienced and if you've shown empathy towards these animals who cannot speak, who cannot, fend for themselves. So do you also do, apart from your job, any specific or are you associated with any NGOs who
No,
work for animals?
no, I'm not associated. I at times keep donating, or I feed my animals around regularly. In the night, I just go around and I try to ensure that I feed at least one, two, or whatever possible on my part. I try my best to do that.
Thank you. My next question is to you, Siddharth sir. That what message does your book Unmind impart to readers?
The reason I wrote this book was because I felt that in the current scheme of things, somewhere these teachings have got lost. They have been, Advaita philosophy is something that has been part of Indian religion, Indian spirituality for a very long time, but how it has been distilled and how it is communicated now is very different from how it actually is. And I felt that it needed a fresh take. It needed somebody to narrate it in a different way so that the younger demographic, the younger audience is able to understand these teachings. So the message that this book is really trying to impart is, in modern life, the way we are sort of raised is that we are always told that you get this, you acquire this, or you become something, or you buy this house and everything will be good, right? You'll become happy. And over time, as you grow into an adult life, you have a family, you realize that that actually is not true, right? So your happiness is not a function of where you stand in society. You can, the richest people in the world, I think 9 out of 10 are extremely unhappy. Or what's your status, what car you own, or what kind of houses you own. But it is actually something very different. And we are not told that. We are not raised that way most of the time. So and we end up as adults struggle to understand how we can be happy, right? And we always try to find short-term solutions for it. For example, a month from now, I want to go for a holiday, and when I'm in the hills, everything will be okay, right? Or I'll buy this big home theater system, and I'll be very happy. And we keep sort of promising ourselves that something or the other that we'll acquire will make us happy. But we do not do one thing that is very important, which is to look inside and observe ourselves, become more self-aware, and understand what really drives true happiness, which is not really the temporary happiness you get by getting things or acquiring things or acquiring status, but the happiness that you feel at times when, let's say, you're meditating. Or the happiness you feel at times when, as Sharbani was mentioning, you're close to nature, right? Why does that happen? So the message is to actually go, instead of externalizing, instead of going out, and looking at the world and trying to be happy with binge watching on Netflix. Go inside, look inside yourself, and figure out what really makes you happy and who you really are. And once you get the answer to your own identity, your true identity, then the kind of happiness that you can achieve will be more long lasting, more sustainable. Right. So, yeah, that is essentially the message that the book is trying to impart.
Thank you so much, sir. Sometimes people they really say that materialistic things and happiness they go hand in hand, but it is not entirely true. The happiness is within. So
Right.
I feel like your book is completely showing what true happiness really feels and how it comes naturally to you when you are at peace within yourself. So
That's right.
absolutely, sir. And my next question is to both of you. And it is that what made you walk on the path of self-inquiry? And I'm going to start with you, Sharbani, ma'am.
Uh, it's more than self inquiry, it's more of deep thinking or thinking um basically what do you say like realizing what you have not realized yet, like in this era, in this generation, we are aware about almost every means we are totally we keep ourselves updated, we know about everything, we like to keep ourselves updated with the technology 5G, whatever is happening, but accept the fact that we are completely unaware about what is going inside, what we think inside. Are we here in this world, on this planet, only to earn money? See, that's a requirement. Obviously, we all need that to meet our daily requirements, bread and butter. But then, is that the only thing for which we are surviving? The bread and butter job, and that's it, or fat paychecks? More than life is more than that, what I have realized. And I was just thinking, like, what these animals, what nature, what they must be thinking throughout the day, what they have in their minds. And I was just sitting and thinking, and I just tried to realize that what who is actually me. Am I just flesh and blood who is running around money, who is running around the job, the promotion, paycheck, everything, or is it more than that? So that actually realize me to have more of self realization, to have more of thinking, to think more, talk more about it with my family, discuss more about these things with my friends, like life revolves, how world revolves, and how things happen. Why are we here for? What are our contribution to the nature, to the society, and what is our thinking towards them? So all this basically, this actually came out as a self realization, like we need to, before knowing the world, before knowing others, before keeping ourselves updated, we need to update ourselves from inside, what we are, what we actually want, or we are just influenced by others. See, we are living in the world of influencers. That means everybody, everything is there to influence you. The malls, influencers, products, advertisements, everything. But behind everything, apart from all of this, what we are, what we actually need, what we are here for. So, this is what the path of self realization. It's not just about going inside temples, sitting there, and not just that. It's more than that. That's what I realized.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And Siddharth, sir, what is your point of view on that?
So the question is, I think, what led me to, sort of walk on this path, right? Um, that's the question, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So I think the reason why you go on this path, in most cases, would be discontent with how things are, right? Unhappiness with how things are. Um, For me, I think it's and for most people, it should be that way, that you get to a point in your life where you realize that uh, what you thought would make you happy or would make you satisfied is not really working out. And you either then have two ways of addressing that. One is you keep giving yourself new incentives on the same path that you are working on, saying that, okay, this has not worked out, but if I get this, or if I get to this place, it will work out, right? It's like when if you remember, your mom would tell you that if you study well in 10th boards, then you won't have to study again in your life, or you study well in 12th, you won't have to study again in your life. But that never turns out to be true, right? so so the other option then is to sort of say that, okay, get to a point where you realize that this path is not really working out, so there must be some other perspective that I'm missing out on, because around you do see people who are happy, right? And in different walks of life, spiritual leaders, teachers, and so on, where you feel that they have reached a level of peace and happiness that you have not really got to, or you're not even close to that, right? And then your aspiration, for me, my aspiration became more around how can I be at peace, how can I be happy, and less around what I can acquire and how rich I can become. That is one of the things that I think becomes very, very important if you want to walk on the path, is the true desire to be at peace. A lot of people dabble in spirituality, but their true desire doesn't lie in being at peace or being happy. Their true desire lies still in, you know, in using this as a way of getting ahead.
Correct.
So for me, I think I had got to that point where I had two choices, and I decided to sort of start exploring this from a spiritual perspective of understanding what it takes, or what do I need to understand in order to be at peace or be happy. And I tried various things. So every personality, every person has a different has something different that suits them, right? So the same medicine doesn't suit everyone. So for example, somebody would say that the standard religious route, right, of observing festivals, going to temples and praying would work for them, and very good, it does work for a lot of people. Somebody else would say meditation every day works for them. Somebody else would join and start doing Buddhist chanting. But so everybody has their own path. For me, I dabbled with meditation for an extended period of time. I realized that meditation is something which really helps in the beginning, but after a point, it has its limitations, right? So everything has its limitations after a point. So for somebody like me, I sort of discovered Advaita, or in Buddhism, Advaita, the same concept is called Zen Buddhism. It's the same concept. It's basically, repackaged. So when I discovered Advaita, that's when I realized that, I have found something that resonates with me at a very deeper level. And that's the path that I have been on for quite a long time now.
Thank you so much, sir. There's a saying that human beings cannot ever be satisfied where they are, or where they, even after achieving what they wanted in life. So I think it will be there, always, that we cannot ever be, we can't be, satisfied with ourselves, and we just want more and more and more. That is why the happiness, I think, so it's lacking, because they always have this feeling that I haven't achieved this and still there's more to come. So that's the thing I feel.
Yeah, you're right.
Correct.
Um, I want to ask that how can one benefit from the connotation of self-inquiry? And so I'm going to start with you.
Right. I mean, see, self-inquiry as a concept is more about um, finding out who you truly are.
Correct.
And who you truly are is to go beyond this concept of I. I think it's one of the oddest things that I feel now is nobody questions the I. I am hurt. In the past, this happened to me, and I'm scarred for life because of that. What will happen to me tomorrow if my boss does not see the report on his table? This whole narrative in the mind, right? This whole narrative in the mind of past and the future is all related and centered on this I. So you relate to the world on the concept that there is an I and there is the other, right? So I am Siddharth, and then the rest of the world is outside of me, and that's how I relate to the world, right? So there is this individual I. The question that nobody questions this I, right? So if you notice this very interesting thing, when kids are told to dance in a wedding, a 3-year-old who is told to dance in a wedding, he or she will just go all out, right? When a 7-year-old is told to dance in a wedding and a 12-year-old to dance in a wedding, you should see the reaction, right? This is just because the 3-year-old is not that conscious of the individual I, right? Who is supposed to go and dance on the stage and who is going to be perceived by, all of these people who are watching. So the 3-year-old does not have a developed sense of I, right? The 12-year-old is thinking, what will they think if I don't dance well, right? If I make an awkward move, then people will remember it, right? Because they are thinking in the perspective of I and the other, right? So the point of self-inquiry is to first understand what this I is, right? If I ask you, can you locate the I? What would you say to that? I'm just asking you, like, if I had to ask you, where is the I? Where is it?
I think it's within me. I am Nancy, and
Yeah,
yeah,
right. I'm Siddharth, I'm Nancy, but where is this I? Is this the body, which is the I? Is it the mind in which the I exists? Where does the I exist?
I think it's in the mind. I don't know.
So I is a concept, So it's a concept which attaches itself to the mind and body. It's like the ego concept. I mean, Western philosophers call it the ego. So it's the concept that attaches itself to the body, and it separates you from the rest, right? So when Sharbani was saying that, why do we treat animals like that, right? The point is, because we treat animals like that because we don't feel they are us, right? How do we treat fellow human beings so badly? Because we believe that we are different from them, right? The whole genesis of all the problems or all the unhappiness in the world is this concept which sort of makes you want to sort of pursue your own interests over others, right? So the first thing that any advanced philosopher will tell you is, how do you dispel this concept of the I? And the first thing you need to do is to question the I itself, or observe the I, and understand how the I responds and reacts to situations, right? So I'll give you a very small tip, like how do you work effectively, right? So if I told you right now, Nancy, that write 10 lines on how was your morning today, right?
Okay.
You start thinking from the perspective that you are being now, right now, you, in the past, let's say, your mind goes like this, right? And this is what the normal mind goes like. Your mind goes like, in the past, whenever I have written, my teachers have discouraged me, saying, I do not write well, I don't write prose well. Or, what if these two people who have written books, how will they feel about it? And then you go and write those 10 lines, you won't write well, right?
Yeah.
But if you had no thought, right, about the past and the future, the consequences in the future, or whatever has happened in terms of negative things that have happened to you in the past, and you were just in the present and you wrote, right, you would do a much, much better job, right? And the reason why that happens is because the I narrative, which goes in the past and the future, is not there, right? There is only the working mind, which is on the job of whatever it is trying to do right now, right? So the biggest question then is to first explore who this I is, and that's what Ramana Maharshi's teachings was. His only book that he actually narrated, and it's a 12-page, 15-page book, which is called Who Am I? It's a question answer format. You can read it. It's available everywhere, downloadable. It sort of just dwells on the fact of answering this question for you, so that you get a perspective which is very different from the perspective that you've always had. See, looking at life from a new perspective is what Advait is all about. If you look at the same dog which is on the street or the security guard downstairs, from my perspective, or I would not say I'm enlightened, but I would say that from a perspective of somebody who has pursued Advait, they would look at it very differently than a very standard perspective of the same thing, right? So if I look at a street dog, I would look at the street dog as me, not different from me, because the Advait's final revelation is that everything is one, right? And you heard this, of course, that everything is one, but getting to that perspective, or actually experiencing that perspective all the time, is the most challenging thing, right? Everybody has heard these cliches, but nobody really practices them. And Advait is about practicing them, saying that I treat everyone alike, right? Easier said than done, right? So the route that Advait sort of recommends is that you first find out who this I is, and question it from the perspective of how it works inside of you. And with that self-awareness, finally realize that I doesn't really exist. And I'm not saying that you should take my word for it. You would eventually, if you follow the path, you'll realize that the whole concept of I is just a concept. It doesn't really exist. And what only exists is this universal consciousness, which is in us, which is in the street dog, or which is in the security guard downstairs, or which is actually in every stone or every particle of this universe, right? Now, the difficult part is the understanding through practice, right? So self-inquiry is more about the practice, which leads you to this understanding in a more sustainable way, because anybody can come to this lit fest and tell you that everything is one, but how many people are really living it is the biggest question, right? And that is the attempt of self-inquiry. Self-inquiry's attempt is to go inside and then sort of get to a point where you are living it 24 hours instead of just knowing about it. That's all.
So I want to add one question related to this question only, that how do you eliminate the self-consciousness and the ego, what people say? How do you eliminate it, and how can one be modest in this generation, in this world? Because right now, I mean, from my personal perspective and my personal experiences, so many people have told me that you should be selfish if you want to achieve something in life. You cannot be modest every time. You have to tell people that this is me and this is who I am and me. You should have to have them.
Yeah.
So can you just let me know? Even I want to, take your advice for it. So.
Sure. So see, the elimination of the ego is impossible. So there are books which say kill the ego, right? That's not possible. The possibility is to erase the ego. It's like when you write with a pencil, right? And you use a eraser, you can still see the pencil's outline, right? On the page, right? You cannot completely erase that outline, right? I'll give you an example. Like this was with Ramakrishna Paramhans. Somebody came to meet him, and there was this gardener, right, who was tending to the plants, and this guy who had come over, he asked this gardener that where does Ramakrishna Paramhans live, and the gardener pointed towards a particular house and just beside the temple. And the guy went there and he realized that Ramakrishna Paramahansa is not there. And so he asked somebody and he said, that's the gardener. The gardener is Ramakrishna Paramahansa. Right? So, so that is the point where, you are not even, Ramakrishna Paramahansa, this example is a point where you're not even identifying with the name. Right? You are sort of pointing towards the house where somebody called Ramakrishna Paramahansa lives, but you do not identify with yourself as Ramakrishna Paramahansa, right? While being in that body, right? But you are still aware that there is a Ramakrishna Paramahansa, right? So the complete eradication of ego is not possible, right? The biggest problem with how we perceive things is we are told, and this is a very radical thought, and this is presented to people in a very different way, but we are told that you are supposed to do this or you are supposed to do that. The truth is that, and this is my this is my own experience truth, and this has been said in umpteen number of books, is that, and including the Gita, is that your genes and conditioning actually decide how you will respond to situations and what you will do in a situation, right? So in a way, what I'm trying to say is that it is destiny. It is 100% pre-written. There is, in my opinion, there's not a shadow of doubt that the whole concept that the I actually does things, the I can do this or do that, is not true at all. Right? If right now I had to go and pick a fruit from my fridge, and I had 7 fruits to pick from, the fruit that I'm going to pick, I feel it's a choice I'm making, but in the truth is that my genetic code and my conditioning of the way I have been brought up, till now, all the experiences in my life actually decides which fruit I'm going to pick. If it's going to be an apple, or it's going to be a custard apple, or it's going to be a grape. Right? So the most important thing is to weaken the ego, right? Is to understand that the ego does not actually have any free will. And again, very radical, but we have to look at ourselves as machines, right? A machine will do exactly what the machine is supposed to do, how the machine has been designed. Right? Over time, the machine can get weary. It can gather some rust. It can have some other specific problems, which is the conditioning. Right? So what happens is your genetic code is not in your control because this is given to you by your parents. Right? And then where you get raised, where you are born, how do you get raised is not in your control. If you really look at how your conditioning happens, right? By the time the choices that you're making at every step of the way are actually being guided by how you've been raised and how you've been conditioned till that point, right? The biggest strength of the ego remains this concept of free will, where we actually believe that I am doing this, I am getting up, I am talking, I am doing this, I have to do this. The whole thing that I'm scared of tomorrow, what will my boss say? Or I'm scared if my kids will get angry with me tomorrow or day after. This is all based on the fact that I am doing something which is causing this, right? Or I can do something to change it, right? That concept itself has to be questioned. Right? And we have to look at it from the perspective that I will do what I'm supposed to do. It's not like, just because we believe in destiny, tomorrow you can just pick up, you lie on the bed and do nothing. Right? That doesn't work, because the reason is your body is conditioned as a machine to get up in the morning and do what it needs to do. That you can't change. Nobody can change that. Now the question is, can you actually observe and notice that there is destiny that is working, and therefore the ego is just a concept which does not really play any significant role in your life except to give you pain from the perspective of the thoughts that arise in your head. Once you start experiencing that, like a very simple tip I will give you is just experience your day, right? Just go back through your day after today evening and look at the points where you felt you made a choice from the perspective of external stimuli coming to you, some external situation coming to you, which is obviously beyond your control, and how you responded to it, right? And see how much of it was actually in your control or not, and do it over a period of time. I think once you start observing yourself, you will sort of tend to realize the pattern there.
Absolutely, sir. Okay, so we are still oblivious to many things associated with our existence. How does your book tackle the complexities of it? And my question is to you, Sharbani ma'am.
We are like still oblivious, yes. Yes, we are still oblivious to many of the issues and problems. And my book actually will never uh, um, provide a solution to tackle the same, but yes, it will give you a deep insight and will uh, encourage you to think on those oblivious parts and on those hidden parts where we fail to pay attention and we fail to think over it. So basically, if you think that the book will come philosopher or something, but yes, I've tried to uh, uh, sketch some of those areas where definitely uh, whoever reads will get will sit, take a pause, and will definitely get to think over those things, over those issues, over those parts which remain oblivious till date. So yes, this is the one.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. My question is, do you think self-realization can lead to a more peaceful walk in life? To be honest, if this question would be for me, my answer would be yes. But still, I'm going to ask from your perspective and from you. And Sharbani ma'am.
For me, self-realization is equal to means deep satisfaction. If you have realized yourself, if you have realized what you are, what you want in your life, what is your true desire, as Siddharth was also saying, if you've got to know, because in this materialistic world, especially when we are entering 2023 and the time when we were born and before that when we saw our grandparents, time has actually changed a lot. We have the movies, everything is so unrealistic, honestly, what I feel. But if you means despite living in this era, in this age, and when you are out, when you are surrounded by so much unrealistic things, materialistic things, if you have realized yourself what you are, what you want, and where you have to stop, that gives you immense pleasure, immense confidence, and immense satisfaction. So basically, for me, self realization is equal to self satisfaction. Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Siddharth sir?
Yeah, so I think I mentioned this before. I think it's more about a filter, right? So it's like when you step out, you wear sunglasses and you feel much better on a sunny day, right? So what to begin with, like instead of looking at it as this very esoteric concept of somebody sitting under a tree and suddenly feeling enlightened, um, let's look at it from the from another view, right? It What self-realization intends to do is to give you a radically different perspective with which you can perceive life or look at life, right? And what it is struggling against is the sum total of your conditioning that has happened over time, right? So, so to give you an example, for me, uh, before I sort of understood this new perspective, I had lived, let's say, 35 years of my life, I had lived like that in a different, with a very different perspective. Now, that 35 years is not going to go anywhere. That is inside of you, right? If you get a new perspective, you will, your new perspective is actually struggling against that built up way of looking at things over time, which has been passed on to you by your parents or by the society around you, and which you have also gained through experiences. So if anybody tells you today that do this and everything will be okay, you know, quick solutions that are offered by several, you know, spiritual teachers or, you know, paths or sects, straight away that's never going to work, because the conflict is with something that you has been ingrained in you for such a long period of time. It's like, you know, you've been a spinner all your life and suddenly you're told that start bowling fast, right? So the so what actually happens in this case is that the perspective first becomes only a read perspective. You understood it by reading it, right? And over time, as you start practicing or experimenting with your life based on this new perspective that you've gained, you start living that perspective. Sometimes in certain instances, and sometimes over a sustainable period of time. I believe enlightenment or true enlightenment happens when you start living it throughout. It becomes a 24-hour experience. And you have completely erased the conditioning that you have been through prior to that first understanding, right? Which will take an immense amount of time, in my opinion. So if you read anybody's life, right, Buddha, or anybody else who's been, who's a credible spiritual teacher, right? You would see long years of struggle, right? With various aspects of spirituality. You know, I think Buddha, I think it was like he had nearly given up. I think it took him, I think 20 years or so. He'd nearly given up before he sort of got it, right? So it's more of a journey over time, and the perspective has to be lived, right? Which is the difficult part, which is the most difficult part. So what actually? So very quickly, I'll just finish this. I know I'm like sort of going on and on, but you know, the first time you sort of read something like this and it just blows your mind. It's more you feel a sense of pride that you know something that others don't know, right? Uh, but if you really look inside, you realize that it's again your ego speaking. Your ego is actually saying that I feel proud that I know something that others don't know, right? And then again, you're not being humble, right? The true humility that really is the sign of a spiritual teacher, right? And if you have to really identify a spiritual teacher, uh, if you walk into a room, he should not be standing out, in my opinion, right? Uh, he should not be dressed in such a way that sets him apart, right? The true humility of a person is in a way where that person treats everyone alike in the same way, right? And the person is not really saying that I'm enlightened, therefore I'm at a higher plane, right? And when you treat everyone alike, two things happen. One is humility and the other is compassion. So humility and compassion are the true real signs that you are on the right path and you are developing towards the right path. If you do not have humility and compassion, then no matter how many books you've read, uh, you're not really on the path to enlightenment. So that is how you would get to know whether you're on the right path, if you feel that it is developing in you. A sense of humility and a sense of compassion is a sort of developing in you, or sort of is gaining strength in you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, ma'am, for giving such an enlightening, answers. And I hope you both enjoyed as much as our audience did. Thank you so much for coming on board with us.